Hi, I'm Philip Shepard, and I'd like to speak to 4 frameworks that contextualize my work. And the work needs contextualizing because it seeks to undo cultural patterns that live in our neurology and stifle our responsiveness to the world. The first of these 4 frameworks is just the concept of wholeness. And as a culture, you might think that we were deeply interested in wholeness. We shop at Whole Foods. We like holistic medicine. We like to be whole in body, mind, and spirit, as the saying goes. But the truth is we've redefined wholeness to make it seem like there's a boundary that contains wholeness. And we've lost our sense of how wholeness feels, of what it means to feel the world as a whole, or to feel the present in its wholeness, or the self, or what it means to speak from the whole of your being, or listen from the whole of your being. So in my book, Radical Wholeness, I speak of the whole blindness of our culture. We have desensitized ourselves to wholeness, so we feel as though we're living in aloneness. We're taught that we're essentially alone, and that initiates a cascade of effects. If you feel that you're alone, then you understand your experience is private, and then your primary job becomes to manage that experience. And in managing that experience to feel good or feel successful, you are living in a divided state. You're living in such a way that you're more aware of the self than you are of the world around you. You spend more time thinking about your thoughts than you do attuning to the relationships that hold your life. So wholeness isn't just one attribute of our reality. Wholeness is the foundational nature of our reality. You can't escape wholeness. Everything leans on everything. Everything depends on everything. The merest flap of a butterfly's wing is felt not just around the world, but literally ripples through the universe. So to be desensitized to wholeness is to be desensitized to reality. Now, we need to orient ourselves to reality. It's just human nature to want to get your bearings. And we do that in a way that selects ideals to guide us. And there's so many ideals: peace of heart, presence, compassion. You could take the ideal of harmony or gratitude, and every one of those ideals is wonderful and worth striving for, but each one of them carries a risk, because to strive for such an ideal is to risk going into a state of division. And that shows up, for example, if you're entering a situation and you remind yourself, right, I should be compassionate here. Well, the head knows what compassion looks like, knows what compassion feels like, knows how it behaves, and so it brings the rest of you along. It commands, in a sense, the rest of you to slip into that mold of compassion. And every ideal carries that risk of division, except wholeness. Because, unlike those other ideals, you can't achieve wholeness. The reality is you can't escape it. There's nowhere else to go. So you already are whole. You already are embedded in wholeness. The challenge then is to resensitize yourself to that reality. And when you do, when you discover what it is to surrender to wholeness, because that's the only avenue you have to it. It already exists. All you can do is yield to it. And I've discovered that as I yield to wholeness, I can be no other than compassionate. When I speak from a place of honesty and truth. How could I be in wholeness and say something I knew not to be true? I abide in peace because wholeness is absolutely at rest in peace. So all of those other ideals by which we seek to orient ourselves fall into place with wholeness. It's like a pole star that guides our journey. Now, just the way a pole star will help a sailor navigate, the sailor doesn't expect to get to the pole star. And if you expect to get to wholeness, you'll be disappointed because you never wake up one day and say, finally I'm whole. Now what should I do next? It's a continuous process of surrender. And that process blossoms and opens your life layer upon layer, and there is no end to those layers because ultimately the whole of the universe lives through you. And how could you surrender to that full sensitivity in the few decades we have on this earth? So the things that keep us from wholeness are these shadows of desensitivity, these patternings in our neurology that our culture seeds into our bodies. And my work is about encountering those and recognizing them and acquiring other choices. So I look forward to sharing some of those practices with you as we move forward together.